last call. Auburn makes history. The Tigers beat down Tennessee to win their first SEC championship since 1985. We'll show you how they did it, what the team had to say about the win, and where they're seated for the big dance. Meanwhile, their rival Alabama was on the bubble heading into that same tournament. Could the Tide do enough to make it back to the big dance, or would their invitation go to another team? It's all on the last call, and it starts right now. Welcome back to The Last Call. I'm your host, Justin Holbrook. The brackets are out, which means it's time to pick teams you haven't watched all season and lose your office bracket challenge to Deborah in accounting. But one team we've been watching all year is Auburn, and the Tigers are going dancing for a second year in a row after winning the SEC tournament today. With that being said, let's run it back. Good news for Auburn as they started the SEC tournament on Thursday. The Tigers were taking on the Tigers of Missouri, a team they beat 92-58 back in late January. That, by the way, was the second most points Auburn scored in an SEC game this season. Could they do it again in Nashville against Mizzou team that beat Georgia on Wednesday? 3 Tigers in foul trouble early, but Auburn still up by 5, make it 7. Malik Dunbar with the jam. But Mizzou comes back, and Jordan Geist, who dropped a career-high 30 against the Bulldogs, ties it at 30. Auburn led 32-30 at the half. Bryce Brown had 0 of those points, but now he has 9. Third straight three-pointer gives the Tigers a 10-point lead, their largest of the game. Once again, Missouri comes back. Torrance Watson nails the tray, and we're tied again, 52-all, 11:30 left. Horace Spencer, one of 4 seniors on this year's team, with the take and the make. Free throw is good. Tigers back up by 3. 5 minutes left in the game. Auburn up 6, make it 9. Malik on fleek. Malik Dunbar knocks down the free throw. Auburn back up by 9. 2 minutes later, kicks it out to Jared Harper. Yes, sir, his first points of the game, and Auburn tops Mizzou 81-71. Last year, a Colin Sexton buzzer beater sent Alabama to its first big dance since 2012. The Tide were in that same predicament again this season, needing at least 1 win, maybe 2, to make it back to the tournament. ESPN's Joe Lunardi had Alabama as one of the first 4 teams out before the tournament, but it didn't look like it would happen. First half, Devontae Shuler knocks down the open J. Rebels led by 14 at the break. Second half, it's the return of the Mac. Tevin Mack, that is, makes it an 8-point game. A minute later, Mack again from the corner, knocks it down. Alabama only down by 5. Rebels and Tide go back and forth for a while. The Tide lead by 1 until now. Bruce Stevens buries the triple and puts Ole Miss back on top with 5 minutes to go. And then Kira Lewis Jr. had to fill the shoes of Sexton, and he's done a heck of a job. This layup ties it back up at 57. He can't connect here, but John Petty is there for the putback slam, his first points of the game, and Alabama holds on to beat Ole Miss 62-57. All right, back to Auburn. Their path to the SEC championship got easier before they even played their quarterfinal game against South Carolina. That's because top seed LSU lost to Florida, meaning the winner of the Tigers and Gamecocks would face the Gators in the semifinals. Auburn lost to the Gamecocks on the road back in January, but only lost by 3. Speaking of 3, senior Chris Silva knocks this one down. 1-point USC lead. There were 10 lead changes and 5 ties in the first half, and this 3 from D'Angelo Purifoy tied it at 36 heading into the break. Second half, Jared Harper had 3 points total against Missouri, but he went off in this one with the game-high 27 3-point Auburn lead. Would it be enough? South Carolina stays in. Felipe Haas makes it a 1-point game, but then Auburn starts pulling away by doing what it does best, knocking down threes. Purifoy again, 6-point Tiger lead. A minute later, Horace Spencer gets in on the action, 7-point Auburn lead. But let's end it in style. Harper lets it fly to Chuma Okeke for the jam, and Auburn beats South Carolina to advance to the semifinals. And now we roll back to the Tide. Alabama overcame that 14 halftime point deficit to advance to the quarterfinals against Kentucky on Friday. The Wildcats are ranked 4th in the country, but Bama did beat the Wildcats back in early January. The Tide, once again, trailing by double digits at the half, down by 10. Keldon Johnson to Nick Richards for the slam. UK goes up 15 with less than 14 to go. Dante Hall scored the game-winning basket on Thursday, his only points of the game. He now has 8, makes it an 11-point game. But the Tide would not get any closer. Tyler Hero played like his last name. He had a 13-point game. UK going for its 5th straight SEC Tourney Championship, Reed Travis. He was off for a long time from injury. His first game back takes it strong for the make, 59-44. And finally, Emmanuel quickly puts it to bed with this 3 as Alabama gets bounced from the SEC tournament. But do the players think they did enough to make the big dance?
We had a tough schedule this season. We had some games we definitely should have won. We also won some pretty good games, so hopefully they're able to look at that and be, I guess, generous enough to say, you could say, to let us in the tournament.
We got a good resume, I think so. You know, beating Ole Miss, their tournament team. You know, I know the loss to Kentucky might affect, but I mean, they're projecting number 1 seed for a reason, so I think we should get in, but it's in the committee's hand.
And so the Tide watched Selection Sunday to see if they would make the big dance, and there will be no dancing for Alabama. Tide on the outside looking in as one of the first 4 teams out of the tournament after going 18-15 overall and 8-10 in the SEC. But history was still within reach for Auburn on Saturday. A win over Florida would give the Tigers their 4th ever championship appearance in the SEC tournament and 1st since 2000. If you can't tell from the many faces of Bruce Pearl, it was a roller coaster day for the Tigers. Would they be all smiles at the end? First half, Jared Harper ties it at 19. He finished the first half with 16 points. But it was Florida that had the halftime lead. Kavarius Hayes throws it down off the inbounds pass. Gators led by 4 at the break. Second half, Austin Wiley's been dealing with injuries all season, but in his first minute of action, he ties it at 41. Tigers stay on the attack. Harper over to Smear Dowdy for 3, 13 to go, and that's the first Auburn lead since 8 minutes left in the first half. They add to it. Bryce Brown went 0 for 5 from 3 in the first half, but 4 for 5 in the second half, gives Auburn the 8-point lead. Here comes Florida, wide open dunk for Hayes, and just like that, it's a 1-point game with 1 minute left. Same score, under 20 seconds to go. Jared Harper, 0 points in the second half. Don't matter. Auburn back up by 4. Harper at the line made his first, missed the second, so Florida has a chance to tie it and send it to overtime. And look at this. Auburn purposefully fouls. No fouls called on either the shot or before the shot, so Auburn holds on to advance to the SEC championship. And that set up this, a rematch of Auburn and Tennessee for the title. The Tigers beat the top 5 Vols last week to end the regular season, and if they could do it again, they would win their first SEC tournament since 1985 and just the 2nd in program history. Let's see how they got it done. Bruce was all kinds of worked up early on once again, but it would get much better. Smear Dowdy in for Jared Harper, who had 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes, makes it 22-18 Auburn. And then Bryce Brown from downtown. Yes, sir, 25-17, just under 7 minutes until the break. Less than 5 minutes to go in the half. Chuma Okeke dives on the loose ball up to Javon McCormick. Instead of going inside, he goes to Brown right in front of Rick Barnes' face. Ouch. 12-point Auburn lead, but the Vols get some back before the break. Jordan Bowden lays it in at the buzzer to cut the Tigers' lead to 9, but that is as close as Auburn will let the Vols get. They were unconscious from 3 in this game. Chuma Okeke for 3-3. Shout out to Jack Patterson. Chuma went off for 18 points. 15 came from 3, and he pulled down 13 rebounds. And this is just disrespectful. Harper doesn't do the layup. He just passes it to Brown, who buries the triple. Auburn hit 50 in the SEC tournament and beat Tennessee 84-64 to win their first SEC tournament since 1985. For more, we turn to Rex Castillo, who is in Nashville all week long to see this go down.
For the first time since 1985, the Auburn Tigers can call themselves SEC Tournament champions. It's another huge step for a group that wants to continue to change the culture of Auburn basketball. After beating Tennessee by just 4 points on the Plains in the regular season, the Tigers blew out the Volunteers 84-64 here in Nashville.
It definitely feels unbelievable. It doesn't even feel real, to be honest with you. Like, we just won the SEC championship last year, and then we won the tournament this year. Like, probably 2 of the best years of my life, if you ask me.
An amazing feeling, you know. I can't even express how I'm feeling right now. Really emotional, but I want to do it again later in March, you know, to keep on going.
We got to times where we got embarrassed. We lost a couple games in a row, but we didn't let that define us, and we were able to come into the tournament and make some noise. So, yeah.
Now, they had to do this without their star point guard Jared Harper towards the beginning. Harper got 2 fouls early on and went out with 17:30 left in the first half. Javon McCormick came in for Jared Harper and filled in with a stellar game as well.
It just says a lot, especially about our bench. You know, Jay really came in off the bench and stepped up. He made some big shots, and it just showed we got a lot of heart. We ain't gonna never give up.
And there's really not a lot of teams that can go deep into their roster like that. Like one of our better players is out with foul trouble, and someone that nobody probably never heard of in college basketball come up and step up each and every time that he go out. It's just great. It's great to have good depth.
But Auburn's offense was on another level. After going just 25% from three-point land, they hit 50% of their three-point tries in the second half, and this game was completely out of reach. What's next for Auburn? Well, it's Selection Sunday, so they get to find out where they'll actually sit in the big dance after taking down one team that was supposed to be a 2 seed, Tennessee. Reporting from Nashville, I'm Rex Castillo, WRBL Sports.
So what seed does Auburn get after all the chaos? They started the SEC tournament as a projected 6 seed, so one would think winning the whole thing would mean they're a shoo-in for a 4 seed, maybe even a 3. But the selection committee didn't see it that way. This was the Tigers' subdued reaction to receiving the news that they'd be a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. The Tigers will face New Mexico State in Salt Lake City on Thursday, and if they win, they will play the winner of Kansas and Northeastern. Auburn was a 4 seed last year and won their first game, but fell to Clemson in the second round.
I'm not worried about the seeding, you know. I just know we're in a good spot, in a good position. You know, just keep focused on the process. That's all I can really honestly say. You know, it's only my second time being in the tournament. I don't really know much about it. Just I know I just wanted to win and keep moving on. Just try to get Sweet 16, Elite 8, and Final Four.
I wish we were closer for our fans. You know, Auburn doesn't get the tournament very often. They created the pod system to try to keep you a little closer to home, but you got to be better than a 5 to be able to enjoy some of that. Look, we just want to go in there and represent the SEC as its tournament champion.
All right, still to come on the last call. Auburn beat Tennessee in basketball, but could they do it on the diamond? Tigers face the Vols to start SEC play. We'll show you what happened after the break. With all the excitement going on with Auburn's basketball team, it's easy to forget just how well the baseball team is doing. Let me help. The top 20 Tigers were riding a 10-game win streak heading into their first SEC weekend, with Auburn hosting who other than Tennessee. The Tigers started off SEC play by beating the Vols 2-0 on Friday. Tanner Burns continues to be lights out, giving up 0 runs in his last 22 innings, tying them with Tennessee and UCLA for most shutouts in all of baseball so far. They followed that up by scoring 10 runs over the next 2 days, 5 in each game, to complete the sweep of Rocky Top. In Game 2, the Tigers put up 4 runs in the 5th, while Auburn High grad Brooks Fuller came in on relief to pick up the big win. And today, the Tigers were down 3-2, but in the 8th, Edouard Julien delivered for a second day in a row, giving Auburn the lead and eventually the win to sweep the Vols. After winning 10 games in a row, CSU hit a skid, dropping 2 out of 3 to UNC Pembroke last weekend, but they could get back in the win column on Wednesday against West Georgia. This wouldn't help. Logan Taylor rips one over the shortstop for a 2 RBI double, and the Wolves lead 2-0 in the very first inning. But the Cougars get one back in the bottom of the second. Dane Bullock gets a hold of this one and tucks it just inside the foul pole. 2-1 CSU on the attack, coming back. Same inning, same thing for Drew Webb. The junior launches this one over the wall in left center, and every run would count as the Cougars win by 1, 8-7. They finish this week with 3 wins and 1 loss, beating Lander in 2 out of 3. Speaking of win streaks, CVCC has won 6 in a row. Pirates hosting Enterprise in a doubleheader yesterday. Pirates get a ground out to end the first game, winning 10-2. That improves their record to 14-7 overall. Game 2, Parker Boyle was cooking on the mound. Strikes out the side in the first inning, and we jump to the bottom half of the same inning. Runners on second and third for Jason Rooks, and he delivers. Pirates led early and often and win Game 2 12-5, improved to 8-0 in conference play. All right, we're still serving on the last call, and up next we go north to Atlanta, where Harris County native Taquan Marshall took part in Georgia Tech's Pro Day, but not as a quarterback. More on that in a little bit. This Big news in high school football. The defending 7A state champ Central Red Devils will begin the 2019 season against perennial powerhouse Hoover on August 23rd. The game will take place at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, and it's part of the 2019 Champions Challenge. These two teams last played each other in the Champions Challenge back in 2016, which Hoover won 23-7. That game, by the way, was the last time Central lost in the regular season. The Red Devils are coming off a perfect 14-0 season in which they won their second state title in school history. On the other side, Hoover lost to Thompson in the semifinals, but before that, the Bucks won 5 of the last 6 7A state championships. Staying on the gridiron, Georgia Tech hosted their pro day this week, featuring former Harris County standout Taquan Marshall. Marshall played quarterback with the Yellow Jackets, but he'll be switching to wide receiver in the NFL. And to see how he did, we turn to Rex Castillo, who was in Atlanta on Tuesday.
For 3 seasons, Taquan Marshall lined up as Georgia Tech's quarterback. Well, last season, he helped the Yellow Jackets reach a 7-6 overall record and an appearance in the Quick Lane Bowl. On Tuesday morning during Georgia Tech's pro day, Taquan wasn't listed as a quarterback. Instead, he will enter this year's NFL draft as a wide receiver. For Marshall, this is where he wants to make his mark at the next level.
I was very versatile, so I could see myself doing a lot more than just being up under center or being in the gun. So I thought I would just utilize my talent and utilize my athleticism and be able to do more than just quarterback and be able to play receiver, be on special teams, everything like that. So I think it was kind of the thought going into it, and I think it's going to work in my favor.
He was the guy throwing passes to wideouts during the season, but he believes his time as a signal caller can only help him in his new position.
Having a quarterback mindset, it's a little bit easier on me playing receiver just because I know exactly where the quarterback may want the receiver to be and things in that aspect, so it's kind of helped me out a little bit.
And Taquan's wideout performance during Georgia Tech's pro day was impressive. He didn't drop any passes during the live routes, and the players that caught Marshall's passes in the season were very impressed.
Hey, y'all saw it out here today. I mean, he's just so smooth. He's an athlete. I mean, the transition from triple option quarterback to receiver, I mean, he's made tremendous leaps and bounds.
College players have made this transition before. In fact, there was a quarterback from Kent State who lines up as a wide receiver these days. In fact, he became the Super Bowl MVP. He's New England's Julian Edelman. And Marshall has studied that blueprint for success thoroughly.
I've definitely looked at what he's done and a lot of the other guys that are kind of his size and his speed, just to kind of model my game after that. So it's definitely somebody I've looked at, and a lot of people have definitely heard of him.
Now we'll see if Marshall can be that dangerous weapon on Sundays.
Best of luck to Taquan at the next level. Coming up, it's been a big week for Auburn basketball, but they did suspend one of their assistant coaches indefinitely, and a former assistant coach who was fired has changed his plea of not guilty to guilty. We'll have more on that on the other side. In the fall of 2017, Auburn assistant basketball coach Chuck Person was arrested on 6 federal charges, including bribery, fraud, and conspiracy. His arrest and later indictment stemmed from the FBI's investigation into the criminal influence of money in college basketball. Person originally pleaded not guilty, but that changed on Friday. According to a motion filed in the Southern District of New York, Person will enter a change of plea to guilty regarding a conspiracy charge. Person allegedly accepted more than $90,000 over 10 months. Investigators say he funneled some of that money to the families of current Auburn players D'Angelo Purifoy and Austin Wiley, and also arranged for other payments to be made to those players who served suspensions last year. Person is one of 10 suspects accused in the scheme and is the last of 4 assistant coaches to change his plea. And the guy who was hired to replace Person is now under investigation as well. Assistant coach Ira Bowman has been suspended indefinitely after allegedly taking part in a bribe scheme to recruit a player to Penn University in 2015. Former Penn head coach Jerome Allen identified Bowman in his federal testimony last week, in which Allen admitted to accepting about $300,000 in bribes to put a player on his team. Allen testified Bowman, then an assistant at Penn, knew of the scheme and was later involved after Allen was fired in 2015. Last on the last call, Auburn's showing out on the court, but the thing you have to see is what they did off of it. That's coming up. As good as Auburn has been on the court, the thing you have to see is what the team did off of the court before the SEC tournament. On Monday, Bruce Pearl and his team traveled to Beauregard to welcome back the elementary school teachers back to school for the first time since the devastating tornado on March 3rd. And the very next day, the entire team returned to welcome back the students. They were welcomed back with hugs and high fives from the whole team, including fan favorite Aubrey the Tiger. It's a small gesture, but small acts of kindness go a long way to help that community heal. After Auburn's win over Florida in the semifinals, Pearl said his team is still thinking of and playing for the folks in Beauregard.
Our community's been through a lot with the storm, and it's been very difficult. So for the people in the Beauregard area that are watching this, you know, our guys are thinking about it a little bit. We were in school last week when we were preparing for the NCAA tournament. We went to school a couple times. I can hardly wait to go back this week and see the kids again and celebrate the SEC tournament while we're preparing for the NCAA tournament.
They go back to Beauregard as a 5 seed, and we will end the last call with this beautiful shot of Toomer's Corner all decked out, celebrating the big SEC Championship Tournament win. Thanks so much for watching The Last Call. Same time next week.